Welcome to the Iron Heel. My name's David Solnit. Can folks in the back hear me?
Yes. Yes.
I'll talk louder. My name's David Solnit. I'll be one of your puppeteers today. Welcome to today's performance of the Iron Heel. A couple things. One is, if you're feeling it, we understand the shade, but at any point you feel like moving forward to the front, the performers love to see faces. So when you're feeling it, just come on forward and come up closer. We're super honored to get to perform with Signdance Collective International. They're in the Bay Area for a performance, and they've taken on rehearsing with us on top of their existing performance schedule. So show them a lot of love when they come on up. And very honored to be able to perform the Iron Heel in the place where Jack London lived. And excited to bring about the rebel and revolutionary spirit of Jack London back to his home, and I'm hoping we take it back to our communities to make a better world. And super honored to be here with Tarnel Abbott, who sort of spearheaded bringing this facet of Jack London back to the Bay Area, back to his home, back to the world. So please welcome Tarnel Abbott. And the last thing I'd like to add is we're all volunteer, and we're going to pass a couple iron boots and ask folks if you can contribute. Both we're covering our costs, but then we'd like to give a little bit to Signdance for some of their expenses in traveling here, but also to a couple of the groups that carry on Jack London's revolutionary tradition. The Sunflower Alliance. Any folks from Sunflower here? And the Richmond Progressive Alliance. So I'm going to pass the boots. Please give generously. And we'd like them to end up at the table in the back. Again, please welcome Tarnel Abbott.
Hi, and thank you very much for coming. And it's a pleasure to be here. And I am actually going to just hand the microphone off to Iris Dunkel, who is a Jack London scholar who she teaches at Napa College. And she's also a poet in her own right. Yes? So please say hello to Iris. She's going to have a few words here. Thank you.
Jack London lived only 40 years, but his life was rich with action and adventure. He left us with a legacy of books, but he also left us with his descendants, one of whom you will be hearing from today. You already have heard from. What an honor to get the opportunity to stand here today in this, the Valley of the Moon, at this Jack London's former home, to hear his great-granddaughter enact an adaptation of one of his most powerful stories, The Iron Heel. I brought my book. The Iron Heel was first published in 1908. It's a novel that was way ahead of its time. A novel that received little acclaim during London's lifetime, but that became more and more popular as the world was torn in two, first by World War I, then again by World War II. It's a novel that has been translated and read around the world. Its ideas have influenced authors such as George Orwell, and it is a novel that continues to resonate in our modern world. Many discount it for merely being futuristic, a dystopian novel that had little to do with the times in which Jack London actually lived. However, such limiting interpretations miss the rich, complicated relationship that plays out between the past, the present, and the future. As Howard Zinn said in his introduction to the book, if we take the iron heel as a premonition of the future, to bemuse us, fascinate us, frighten us, we will be deceived. It is a present that haunts a spinner of futuristic tales, and so it did Jack London. The present that haunted Jack London as he wrote this book in 1908, though the power of the corporations, the great wealth of the 1%, and the dismal world left to those below is still all too real and present today. The Iron Heel is introduced to the readers as a found historical document called the Everhard manuscript, an unfinished manuscript that provides future readers with a feel for the terrible times in the early 20th century when the iron heel of oligarchy loomed and then descended upon mankind. It was supposedly found 7 centuries after it had been written, hidden in a tree just down the hill near Wake Robin Lodge. There's no doubt that London consciously crafted this text. Not only is it a framed narrative and presented as a false historical document, it is also rich with footnotes that reveal Jack London's serious study of history, philosophy, and political science. This modernist approach is breathtakingly different from any other book written by Jack London. As we sit here today, in the hollowed-out ruins of the winery, a place that was once a functioning building, where Eliza Shepherd, Jack London's sister, ran the ranch, where countless visitors of all backgrounds had stayed, a place that was remade into a dude ranch during the Great Depression, a place that was kept alive after Jack London died suddenly in November 1916 through the hard work of Charmian London, Eliza Shepherd, and her descendants, and by so many people who have been moved by the work of Jack London. As we look around us and see the legacy of the land and the people who have lived on it, the cottage where Jack and Charmian lived, the remnants of Pig Palace and the silos, as we watch the great-granddaughter of Jack London step to the stage and retell a story Jack London imagined 107 years ago. Let us look at this play like it is a possible history that we dare not repeat, that we can learn from. Let us step into the ruined winery as if it is the hollow tree where the imaginary scholars found the Everhard manuscript. Let us use this time to look deep into the face of our world today, deep into all its faults and glories. Let it remind us who we once were as a people, who we are now, and who we may want to be in the future. Thank you.
I would also like to thank Brad Zorowski from Transcendence Theater for allowing us to use the stage, and all the volunteers at the Jack London State Historic Park, especially Susan St. Marie and Deborah Large. I also would like to acknowledge I have a couple of relatives here in the audience. I have my sister Darcy over here, and here. And we have 2 members of the Richmond City Council in attendance. We have Mayor Gail McLaughlin. Former Mayor, Gail is always my mayor, but she's now council member. And Eduardo Martinez. My great-grandfather, Jack London, was born in 1876 and died at the age of 40 in 1916. An ardent socialist, he frequently signed his letters, "Yours for the Revolution," or "Yours for the Brotherhood of Man." The Iron Heel, published in 1908, was a futuristic political novel which predicted the rise of fascism. In my own experience during Occupy movement in Oakland, California, I felt the might of the iron heel when the police opened fire on a peaceful crowd with flash grenades and military-grade tear gas. One of those near me was shot in the head with a projectile. Just last year, in my own town, the electoral process was corrupted by the millions put out by Chevron, Wall Street banks, Coca-Cola, and other big corporations as they attempted to turn the tide against progressive change. In 1906, Jack London wrote to his friend, Cloudsley Johns, "I am hard at work on a new novel, The Iron Heel. It is a socialistic, capitalistic novel. The Iron Heel is the oligarchy of the master capitalists. The period covered is between 1912 to 1932, the 20 years that begin with the Peasant Revolt and the Chicago Commune, and that culminated in the Second Revolt in 1932. You can imagine the delicious slings one character takes to the irrational organization and management of society of today. I am having the time of my life writing the story." To tell the story of the Iron Heel, here is Meredith, a historian from far in the future in the era of the Brotherhood of Man.
It cannot be said that the Everhard manuscript is an important historical document. To the historian, it bristles with errors, not errors of fact, but errors of interpretation. Writing 700 years ago, the socialite-turned-revolutionary Avis tells us of her romance with Ernest Everhard and their experience of the turbulent period between 1912 and 1932. We must forgive her confusions of the time and of the heart, and remember that nowhere do we find more vividly portrayed the psychology of the persons that lived in those troubled years. Their mistakes and ignorance, their doubts and fears, misapprehensions, their ethical delusions, their violent passions, their inconceivable sordidness and selfishness. These are the things that are so hard for us of this enlightened age to understand. History tells us that these things were, and biology and psychology tell us why they were. But history and biology and psychology do not make these things alive. We accept them as facts, but we are left without sympathetic comprehension of them. Avis writes of the unlikely romance and alliance that resulted from her meeting the revolutionary, Ernest Everhard, and how he opened her eyes to certain political realities. Act 1, Workers' Conditions.